and let us all do we can to build a better future. All right. Let's talk about censorship. There has been this super fast rush by those in power to silence and suppress free speech. Now, the thing is, you would expect more from our lawmakers, but people like AOC or those in corporate media want to control the narrative, want to control how stories are viewed, how things are done. And the thing is, we're seeing censorship happen in real time. Case in point, I want to talk about how, again, ABC News censored RFK Jr. Here's something right here. Let's talk about it.
And while we're on the
And again, shout out to Case Study QB. If you're not following him on Twitter, please do so.
subject of censorship, ABC journalists now admitting they probably censored Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Listen to this.
We should note that during our conversation, Kennedy made false claims about the COVID-19 vaccines. We've used our editorial judgment and not including extended portions of that exchange in our interview.
So we did you a favor. I mean, Curtis is saying we did you a favor. We just kind of took this out of there because that could be harmful, could be triggering to you.
That was a stunning disclosure from ABC News Live and anchor Lindsay Davis. They're inviting in controversy. I mean, you got to appreciate the transparency saying that they edited down the interview, but I think that kind of goes with the understanding if it's not a live interview that some things might be edited down. Now, I disagree.
Now, here's the thing. I take this as a point of pride. All of our interviews that we do here with Hard Lens Media, we don't edit it out. We make sure that everyone hears the full story. But corporate media does that a lot. Hell, they did that to Bernie Sanders and any progressive movement happening from 2016 up until now, too. To silence and suppress any kind of independent voices, to silence and suppress third parties, to dismiss third parties, to dismiss independents, to dismiss those who are speaking truth to power. And look, I see history repeating itself again. Heads up to RFK Jr.'s campaign and Marianne Williamson's campaign. This is what the media will do to you.
Agree with a lot of Kennedy's views on a lot of things, vaccines. I find it kind of abhorrent personally, but that doesn't mean, you know, the speech should be silenced and you can't have someone afterward to fact check it if you are going to air it. So now the cat's out of the bag.
Now I want to pause here. I want to pull up this video here. And it kind of relates to really what kind of environment we are in regards to the media. And we have to address the media for what it is. It is connected to the corporations, to Wall Street. This is a tweet from Lori Spencer. And this is in regards to how Robert Kennedy Jr.'s father and uncle were calling out the establishment, or at least eventually what would become the establishment.
My father and uncle were fighting against this emergence of a military-industrial complex, and their deaths really marked a fork in the road for our country and for the rest of the world, where we started down this road towards corporatism, what I call the merger, this corrupt merger of state and corporate power.
Yeah, state and corporate power. There's a word for it, folks. It's the F word. But see, when you look at the media for what it's become, again, I want to give a huge shout out to, again, Nick from RBN. How is this not considered state TV? This is what the American people are exposed to. Hang on, folks. Please try not to vomit. This is journalism and media here in America. And both these individuals are now on mainstream media, and both of them were associated with the current administration. There's Simone Sanders, who used to work for Kamala Harris, the VP, and Jen Psaki, former White House press secretary.
What was your best day with the White House Correspondents Association?
You know, I will say the majority of the time, they were really incredible partners, because when we were navigating COVID, even though that was some of the hardest times, it was also some of the most collaborative times. I mean, when I was the press secretary, Zeke Miller from the Associated Press at the time was the president. Long may he reign, I used to say, even after he was no longer the president. And we had to navigate through a very difficult time in history, a time where we wanted to return access to the press, show value and respect for the media.
Return access, value to the media. But yet there's been numerous occasions in this White House administration where when hard questions were asked towards the White House press secretary, they were dismissed, silence removed, any form of criticism gone. And hell, let's face it, sometimes even good old Joe Biden would dismiss the press. Whenever asked questions about anything, he'd go away.
But also do it in a way that was keeping people safe. They're also very important and valuable partners when there are foreign trips. I mean, you know this, when you're going to a war zone, you do go to the Correspondents Association and you say, hey, we're going to go to Afghanistan or Iraq or somewhere that is a challenging security place to be. I need to work with you on how we create a press pool for that.
Yeah.
But then again, we also get politicians like this who then cheerlead censorship. People like AOC.
Tucker Carlson is out at Fox News. Couldn't have happened to a better guy. What I will say, though, is while I'm very glad that the person that was arguably responsible for some of the largest, driving some of the most amounts of death threats and violent threats, not just to my office, but to plenty of people across the country. I also kind of feel like I'm like waiting for the cutscene at the end of a Marvel movie after.
God, she's like Michael Scott, but less refined.
Where all the credits have rolled, and then you see like the villain's like hand reemerge out to grip over like the end of a building or something. But deplatforming works.
No, it doesn't. It won't work.
And it is important. And there you go.
Well, Tucker landed on his feet. And the thing is, the current state of media here in America is downright pathetic. We have an establishment media that is pro-censorship, that wants to control the neoliberal narrative to make sure all of you are subservient towards it. We have individuals who want to silence, censor, remove, demonetize, deplatform, shadow ban anyone that is critical of what's being presented to us. Now, I said that the censorship is going to get worse. And yeah, folks, I get it. There are bad people. I understand that there are bad people that abuse the First Amendment. But when you call for censorship, everyone is then put on the chopping block. So AOC, to your credit, yeah, I guess deplatforming works. But what happens when it happens to people that you like? People that you follow? You see, the thing is, here in America, we have the First Amendment, freedom of speech. It's a wonderful, wonderful amendment, and one that must be preserved and cherished. And in order to preserve it, in order for good to triumph, yeah, we have to be open, have an open dialogue. You know, I think my words alone can't inspire enough. We have to look at the past, and we have to hear another perspective, somebody who's no longer here with us. I want to pull up this 3-minute video of Jerry Springer. He was a principled advocate for free speech. And the video you're going to hear is a little difficult to watch, but it's fundamental for democracy, for people like AOC to listen to, for people like the Jagoffs in corporate media to listen to. Because now more than ever, if we continue down this pathway of censor, silence, deplatform, demonetize, all of this, it's going to get worse. And when you censor one voice, all of us get censored. Again, it's going to be difficult to listen to, but if you believe in free speech, you'll want to listen to the words of Jerry Springer. May he rest in peace.
Now here's another point of view. Tonight, Jerry Springer.
Thanks, Allison. Back when I was the mayor of Cincinnati, the neo-Nazis, knowing I was Jewish, figuring this would be a good test, applied for a parade permit. They wanted to march through our downtown on a Saturday afternoon. Well, I didn't know what to do. You see, much of my family was exterminated in the concentration camps of Germany during World War II. and I didn't think, in respect to my parents who were survivors of it all, that I could go along with the permit. And yet I knew my constitutional obligation as mayor. So what was I to do? I called my folks. I would respect their wishes. I didn't tell them, but I'd already decided if they didn't want me to let the Nazis march, I would resign and let the next mayor approve the permit. But my dad reminded me that this is America, that this is the freedom we sought when we escaped to here. So we must never be a party to silencing any person or any point of view, no matter how despicable. If what is being said is nonsense or mean or spiteful or dangerous, or if the person uttering it is unworthy, let the words and ideas fall of their own merit in the free marketplace of ideas, not because they were silenced or denied a platform. My parents lost their parents and brothers and cousins to Hitler, and yet they still said, sign the permit, let them march. Last week, the general manager here announced that I'd agreed to his request to do commentaries from time to time on NBC5 News. I'd been doing commentaries for over 20 years and won 7 Emmys for them, so whether I was qualified to do them didn't seem to be in question. It was a reasonable request, and so I said yes. But one of the anchors said she was deeply offended, that I wasn't up to her standards, that because of the admittedly wild and crazy talk show I do, I would taint everyone who worked here, that I was the poster child for the great unwashed of our society. This elitist snobbery that only people who meet an anchor's approval should be permitted to share the set is now being hidden in the self-righteous cries of journalistic integrity. Bull, and you can fill in the rest of that word. Please understand, we have no journalism in a free society unless we have commentary from all parts of the community, from the poor, the disenfranchised, the left, the right, the outrageous, and yes, the different, not just from the endless array of Walter Cronkite wannabes that populate every news program in America so that virtually every news program looks alike. Look, I am sorry the anchor quit. I'm sorry she found it necessary this week to use me as a stepping stone to martyrdom. But as much as I detest the elitist snobbery on this issue, I would never, ever suggest that she doesn't have a place on our airwaves. She does. But here in America, the rest of us do too. I wish she could have met my dad.
I'm not crying, you are. I didn't want to pause or interrupt, but those are words that we need to heed to that are so relevant to today, that matter now more than ever. It's going to get worse. And so long as people are silent and obedient to this entire system that we are living in, nothing's going to goddamn change. Everyone has a voice. Deplatforming does not work. It only creates something far more vile, far more repulsive. Freedom of speech is fundamental to our democracy. I truly do wish that our politicians understood this. I truly do wish that our media understood this. But they don't. You want to know who does? You do.